President surprising top Republicans and Democrats when he let reporters and cameras stay in the room for nearly an hour during their immigration meeting today. According to a senior administration official, that was in order to, quote, seize the megaphone and give the president a chance to show off his deal-making chops. But for a president who campaigned on his tough stance on immigration, this may come as a surprise to a lot of his supporters.
When this group comes back, hopefully with an agreement, this group and others from the Senate, from the House, comes back with an agreement, I'm signing it. I mean, I will be signing it. I'm not going to say, oh, gee, I want this or I want that. I'll be signing it because I have a lot of confidence in the people in this room that you're going to come out with something really good.
Let's discuss now. CNN political commentator Ana Navarro is here, CNN contributor Jason Kander, and talk radio host John Fredericks, who was a co-chair of the Trump campaign in Virginia. Good to see all of you. Happy New Year to those I haven't seen since New Year. So, Anna, you wrote on Twitter that was the moment you had to lift your jaw off the floor. If they came up with something, the president would sign it. Why did you have to lift your jaw? It was surprising to a lot of people.
Well, first of all, it was fascinating to watch, right? For a political junkie, this was really like watching the Super Bowl. But, you know, then you've got Donald Trump, who built his entire campaign on tough on immigration type of rhetoric. And we've got this, you know, it was so dramatic. The DREAM Act, the DACA kids, they've got a deadline coming up. They've got 2 months to fix this, or these kids are beginning to lose all their status, beginning to lose any ability to be part of society. Their lives are in limbo. So it was the drama of it. It was the radical change in Donald Trump. It was the conciliatory tone. It was the compassionate words coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. It was him, I thought, being brilliant. Tactically, strategically brilliant. He is laying this straight on Congress's lap. If they don't come up with something, it's their fault. They own it. He's given them a deadline. He has stopped them from being able to keep this can being kicked down the road.
Yeah, listen, I want to listen to more. Here's more of the president.
If we do this properly, DACA, you're not so far away from comprehensive immigration reform. And if you want to take it that further step, I'll take the heat. I don't care. I don't care. I'll take all the heat you want to give me. And I'll take the heat off both the Democrats and the Republicans. My whole life has been heat.
So, John, the question, and Lindsey Graham in that meeting said, we're going to get it from the Democrats, we're going to get it from conservative talk radio, which you're part of, we're going to get it from conservative media. How does the president's base, how's the president's base going to feel about a broader deal? Because you know the fear is always about amnesty.
Well, Don, Happy New Year. Welcome back. Great to have you back. Let me just say that I coach basketball. Talk is cheap, play the game. This was a vintage Donald Trump positioning and posturing. He's got to get a deal done. He's got to keep the government open. And so he's got everybody at the table, and he's trying to make it happen. His message was really aimed at Republican leadership. And what that is get me a bill on my desk that I can sign and my base finds palatable. Otherwise, we might as well put the Democrats in control now, forget about 2018, let them run the show. He's certainly not going to do that. So I think what he was saying today is, look, we need something. You have to have a wall, Don. Yeah, absolutely. Any reform, any deal with DACA has to include a wall. You cannot campaign on building a wall for a 2-year period and then all of a sudden say, oh, well, I'm going to negotiate it out. That was a linchpin of his campaign when he came down the escalator. So in order for any deal on DACA to be palatable to the Trump base and for them to stay with him, there's going to have to be some funding for a wall, and there's going to have to be comprehensive legislative reform that isn't a promise, and it isn't a kiss in the wind. It's got to be real.
But Jason, he didn't say that during the meeting. He later had to come back and clarify. But there were Republicans sitting at the table who said, "Well, let's just be clear about what we're saying. Let's be precise." He didn't indicate that, did he? The wall.
Several Republicans after the meeting said they were confused about what he actually wanted. And sadly, I don't actually think that this had much to do with immigration. I think this had to do, unfortunately, with the Trump administration recognizing that their problem of the moment over the last week or so has been that Americans are starting to wonder whether or not the president can sit still for an hour and follow a meeting or run one. And so they decided to put him in front of the cameras for an hour to try and demonstrate that he could. Unfortunately, what it ended up proving was that it is questionable whether or not he can run a meeting, questionable whether or not he can follow a meeting, since he contradicted himself so many times. And, you know, what's maybe just as sad is that it also proved that he may not really now, even after almost a year in the office, have gained any amount of caring about policy, because what he's sitting there saying is, he just wants a win, whatever that is. Just give him something he can consider a win, when if he really believes in doing something for these DACA recipients, I hope he does, then he should be passionately saying this is the only thing we should be focused on right now. But instead, he's just saying yes to everyone in the meeting.
Well, John, I see you're shaking your head, you're disagreeing, but you basically said the same thing that Jason said. Give me something to put on my desk, but you did have the caveat that something that's palatable to my base, but he needs... You're both saying he needs a win here.
I mean, having this on TV because he needs a meeting to show people that he's not eating a cheeseburger. I mean, come on, Jason, this is complete gibberish. I mean, this guy got elected.
He just tweeted the other day that he's a stable genius.
Principles. Well, that's what he can tweet whatever he wants. You guys are obsessed with his tweets. I'm not. They're funny. They make me laugh, and he does what he does. But to say that he had this meeting so that he could prove to people that he has an attention span for 60 minutes is gibberish and nonsense and not deserving of being on this news network. He had this meeting because he is positioning and negotiating in order to go forward and to get a comprehensive deal and to finally solve this immigration problem we have that was the engine in electing him president and getting him the nomination.
Do you want to weigh in on this? Because I think you can have both. I think you can have him sitting there proving that, well, I can sit in a meeting for more than an hour, I have an attention span, but also wanting to make a deal, having to make a deal. So do you want to talk about that or get back to DACA? Because I know you're passionate about DACA.
Don, I don't care if this was the art of distraction, the art of the deal, or the art of construction. What I care is that the Congress people that were sitting there, the senators and the people in the House, grab this opportunity, see this as an opening, take advantage of it, grab that ball and run with it. They've got very limited time to come up to craft a deal. Look, they've got to stop the posturing, the people in Congress. They've got to get into a room, and my understanding is these meetings are going to start tomorrow. They've got a deadline. They want to be able to get this done in the next few days because we've got a looming deadline on January 19th.
But let me ask you this. Do you think that they can do this because his base is going to want a wall? They want a wall.
Well, but listen, let's not get...
Democrats don't want a wall.
That's right. But let's not get hung up on both sides on the word wall and what wall means. But we heard from Trump today what I think is a very pragmatic approach to it. There are going to be portions of it
that
you
don't need 2,000 miles of
but there's
wall.
Also rivers. There's also mountains. There's also fencing that's already there that needs to be repaired. So instead of coming up with a 2,200 square mile wall, it might end up being a 200-mile wall with a lot of other things to make it border security.
18 months ago, or not 18 months, 2 years ago when this all started and people started talking about the wall, that was exactly what people were saying, that there's physically that they couldn't actually do a wall, that it wasn't possible to do a wall across the entire southern border, and that the entire southern border doesn't need a wall. And now the president is saying the same thing. Is this a backtrack? Do you think he'll backtrack on it? Because Feinstein said she wanted a clean bill. He said, I'd be open to it.
I have no idea what he's going to do.
That was for Jason.
I genuinely hope that what he wants is to just get comprehensive reform and to do clean DACA. Like, I genuinely hope that. And right now, there are DACA recipients watching this. And that's why I'm saying if what the president was doing today was trying to present an argument that he can follow along in a meeting rather than actually focusing on immigration, then I think that is wrong and it's disturbing. Yeah. But furthermore, I've been to the wall. There is just like Anna was saying, there are rivers. It is ridiculous. And there was an article today that said that the president is interested. His budget request is all about spending money on, or getting rid of the money that's being spent on effective border security measures to spend it on a wall that's not going to work, which proves my point that this president has a tendency to care more about how he looks than what happens for the country.
Listen, I've communicated
I think it's a big problem.
With four of the Congress people who were in there. They're not dumb. A lot of these folks have been working on this for decades. They know exactly what they've got to do.
Yeah.
They've got to come up with a deal. There's got to be a border security component. They may have to do a little, tweaking on the lottery visas. They know exactly what they've got to do. And Donald Trump invited them to come up with a deal, and he said he would sign it. Call his bluff. Put something on his lap and do it now.
And we know John Fredericks says he's not going to backtrack, that the wall has to be there or he won't sign it. So that's all we have time for. Thank you, guys. I don't have any more time. Thank you. I appreciate it. When we come back, the White House, hoping the president's televised meeting with members of Congress would put to rest questions about whether he is mentally stable. Did it work?